Hello, so I'm in Southampton, about to board a cruise around Northern Europe. Normally when you're going to go on a cruise it's somewhere sunny and hot, but I'm going to go around Northern Europe in winter time. So what's it like? There's plenty of these cruises about, like some of them are kind of taster cruises, some of them are like Christmas market cruises or short breaks. But what they're like, and more importantly, what's it like to cruise around Northern Europe in winter?
What's the weather going to be like? Will things be open? Is it even going to be worth it? Well, I've got a few days to find out, and on the way I'm going to be jumping off at two of Northern Europe's key ports, Hamburg and Rotterdam. So grab your mulled wine or cup of cocoa, sit back and let me show you a Northern Europe cruise in winter, all aboard the massive MSC Virtuosa. Now, there's no denying that the Virtuosa is a beautiful ship. After entering service in 2021, she's still pretty new, and is a big ship coming in at just over a whopping 180,000 gross tons. The heart of the ship is the main street on board, aptly named the Galleria Virtuosa, where you'll find many of the amenities on board. There's bars to grab a drink and watch the world go by, restaurants and plenty of shops too, all under the amazing LED roof, which is very cool. Upstairs here you'll find more bars and also the ship's additional charge restaurants, including the teppanyaki and sushi bar, as well as the Butcher's Cut, which is the ship's steakhouse. There's a good sized casino on board too, with a bar and smokers. You can even smoke inside here too, so if it is cold you don't need to go outside for a smoke. There are lots of indoor activities too, such as a large spa, bowling alley, sports court, arcade games, 2 theatres and oh yeah, a robot bartender.
You know what I mean?
Outside there is a large sun deck and a number of pools and hot tubs, but don't worry if it is winter, as there's also an indoor pool as well. There's even water slides on the top deck. Seriously, this ship is big with lots to do on board. So we departed Southampton late in the evening, and the next day was a sea day, the perfect opportunity to check out the ship. I started by having a look around the outside deck before checking out the gym, which is a fairly good size and had plenty of weights and equipment. And being the healthy boy which I am, I had to have a quick session. So after a quick shower and change, it was time to check out more of this big ship. I started in the atrium with its grand staircase, before grabbing a coffee and doing a bit of people watching. I had a quick look around the shops too, and there's plenty on offer, from duty free selling a range of spirits. There was jewellery, watches, clothes, bags, etc. The usual stuff you kind of find aboard a cruise ship. After which I headed up to the sports deck. Here you'll find the sports bar next to the sports court obviously. There's also some VR games, a virtual racing car and some arcade games too. They weren't very cheap however. Now, even though I'd not long had a coffee, I was keen to try out the Jean-Philippe chocolate cafe, so I had to give it a try. It's an extra charge, but they do serve a superb hot chocolate.
This is the Jean-Philippe chocolate cafe on board the ship, and it is actually really, really good. They've got some crazy concoctions of chocolate, some kind of amazing statues, all made out of chocolate. It's a chocolatier's heaven, and the hot chocolate is pretty good too. It is delicious. It's an extra charge, you're going to pay for it, but it is worth it, and if you want to treat yourself, head for here.
Some of the items made from chocolate are really cool. Even if you don't fancy hot chocolate, it's definitely worth a look. You can even watch the chocolatiers at work creating some of their masterpieces. The next day we arrived into our first destination of this short cruise, Germany's second largest city and Europe's third largest port. Welcome to the vibrant city of Hamburg. I had 12 hours to take a look around the city and to see what it had to offer, and I started by going underground.
So starting off our tour of Hamburg in the Alte Elbe tunnel, which is a pedestrian tunnel which goes underneath the river. So I've walked from the port, from the cruise ship, walk into the city centre and via this tunnel. But the tunnel is pretty cool actually. So yeah, one of the sights to see in Hamburg, and yeah, it's good, nice and clean.
Now, you may be thinking, what's the big deal? It's just a tunnel, and I can see your point. However, it's a nice bit of early 20th century engineering, and the old school lifts are pretty cool too, which take you down to the passageway, which sits underneath the River Elbe. Hamburg, I felt, had a nice vibe, and for a winter destination it was a great choice. You can take a stroll next to the river and even check out the Elbphilharmonic concert hall. The city has some beautiful buildings too, there's lots of architecture here. I like the area by Elbstrasse Arkaden, which is a waterfront shopping arcade, and I hope I said that correctly, which is next to the city's town hall. The town hall too is an interesting bit of architecture, and you can also go inside here and get a tour. Hamburg, I found, had friendly people, nice streets and plenty of cool buildings. There was also a good amount of shops too if you fancy picking up some gifts to take home. Next up, I wandered over to the warehouse district, as it's known. This reminded me a little bit of, say, Liverpool or Manchester back home in the UK, with old factories and buildings which have been regenerated into cool bars and restaurants. This area also was home to some of the city's museums and attractions too. I found it quite a cool part of town. Now, it is November and it is a little bit cold, so I think we should go and get something to keep warm. It was a little cold, so I dove into the Barossa cafe for a nice cup of coffee to warm me up, which was right next to the Barossa Bridge. Somehow I don't think this name was a coincidence. But did they name the cafe after the bridge or the bridge after the cafe? Answer your view in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out Die Strasse when in town, which is the oldest street in the old part of Hamburg, dating back to the 14th century apparently. There are a number of nice bars here too, and if you go down one of the alleyways you can get a cool view of the back of the buildings from the water. So that's it from Hamburg, heading back to the ship now, but yeah, it's a cool place, I love it. I really want to come back actually, like a weekend or something, it's really good. And if you're here in the winter time, there's loads to do, plenty of bars and restaurants, loads of places that sell mulled wine and stuff too, so it's a bit cold, you can get somewhere to find which will keep you warm too. But yeah, I like it, great place. So Hamburg, thumbs up from me. Anyway, back to the ship because it's freezing. Before we left Hamburg, I had a chance to dip in one of the hot tubs on board, which was great. Nice and warm on a winter's evening with the skyline of Hamburg in the background, and it's a perfect way to chill out after a busy day sightseeing. Soon after, it was time to head up the River Elbe and leave the city. That evening I watched one of the shows on board, and I thought overall the entertainment was actually pretty good on the ship. The shows were mainly musicals, but the cast were very good, great dancers and singers. I liked. After the show I went for a few drinks and started off in the Master of the Seas, which is the English style pub on board, where you can get a wide range of beers or even cocktails if you prefer. Next up, it was to the best bar on board in my opinion, the Sky Lounge on deck 18. This chilled cocktail bar has some great views from up top and has a nice atmosphere, quality drinks, great service, and it's also over 18s only too. The next day was another sea day. Now if I'm honest, I'd rather be on an itinerary which only has one sea day, especially with me only being on board for 4 nights. However, it was a big ship and I wanted a few days away relaxing, so I didn't really mind. However, that day, and unsurprisingly for winter, the weather wasn't looking great. So you join me on deck 19, which is right at the top of the ship, and this is the solarium. Now, on a summer's day this would be a round full of people, but it's winter, it's freezing, it's literally blowing a gale outside here, so there's nobody here apart from me. But it's a good kind of introduction into one thing I was a bit apprehensive about when I booked a cruise around Northern Europe in winter, and that is the weather. And that's for 2 reasons. First is the facilities. So a lot of facilities on cruise ships are built for the summertime. So the pool here is massive. It would be great on like a 30-degree day in the Mediterranean. But in the winter time, you're probably not going to use it. I think there's maybe one person using it today, but it is freezing cold and it's windy. And a lot of facilities on board cruise ships are built for the summertime. So think of the kind of nice bars where you can have a cocktail towards the sunset, some kind of exercise activities and things are often outside. So in the winter, you're probably not going to use them. So I was a bit kind of apprehensive thinking, are there going to be things to do? However, choosing a big ship, there's more chance of things being inside than outside. So this ship's got an indoor solarium, indoor pool, it's got loads of things to do inside. If you're going to book a cruise in winter, go for a bigger ship. The second reason is the weather in terms of how bad the sea is going to be in terms of the sea state, so how choppy is it going to be. So today the weather is moderate to rough, the ship is handling it pretty well, but if this was on a smaller ship, I think it would be a lot more rocky than what it is today. So again, choosing a bigger ship, you're not going to feel the weather as much too. So my advice is, if you're going to go cruising around Northern Europe in winter, go for a bigger ship. Once there's more to do in terms of facilities, if the weather is really bad outside,
but also the second reason is that your chances are you're going to feel any bad weather less than you would do on a smaller ship.
Yeah, the Virtuosa handled the weather pretty well. It wasn't incredibly rough, but it was definitely getting a bit choppy, but you couldn't feel much movement and certainly nothing to put you off any of the activities on board. To be fair to MSC, all the outdoor activities were open, such as the pools and water slides, although it was incredibly cold. So I had a relaxing day on board and had a few drinks in the champagne bar, which I would highly recommend. That night was a formal night too, so I dressed up and headed to one of the main restaurants on board. Before embarking the ship, I'd heard that the food on board MSC wasn't that great, but I had no complaints and thought the food was actually really good. There was lots of choice in the buffet and the main dining options were good too, with a good quality. No complaints from me. After dinner, it was showtime.
So I'm in the Carousel Lounge, which is actually a pretty cool space really. It's really good. They do theatre shows on here, but you got to pay extra for them, but you do get a cocktail included in it. Chin chin. So I'm going to check out a show tonight and see what it's like. But yeah, the shows so far have been pretty good. So I think this one, you're going to pay for it. I'm expecting it to be better than the other ones too, but let's see.
This cost me €15 additional charge, but I would highly recommend this show and I thought it was well worth the extra cost. The show was a Cirque du Soleil style with acrobats. The venue itself is a really cool space and the lights and visuals used are much better than in the main theatre. So yeah, I'd say give it a try. The next morning we arrived into Rotterdam, the second largest city in the Netherlands and Europe's largest port. The ship also conveniently docked right in the city centre next to the Erasmus Bridge, which is a superb location for exploring the city. Rotterdam was also where I was going to leave the ship to, unfortunately, although it did continue to Zeebrugge and Le Havre before returning to Southampton if you wanted to do a week's cruise. MSC have passengers embarking at different ports along the way, so if you can't do a full week's cruise, there's often opportunities to do less nights.
Good morning. So I'm in Rotterdam. It's pretty early because I've been kicked off the ship about 8 o'clock. So I've got the day to spend in the city, so I'm going to go and drop my bag off in the station because otherwise I'm going to cart this around all day and then check out Rotterdam.
Now, I was catching a train back to the UK in the evening, so went to the station where you can store your bag. I've done this in lots of places across Europe before flying home or catching the train. Just keep anything expensive with you and of course your passport too, just in case. So if you've got a bit of a layover, these are really good, these lockers. This is a small locker and it gets a massive bag in there. And we've got big ones too. But if you're here for the day after a cruise, then yeah, drop your bags off here, saves you carrying them around all day. Good tip. It doesn't cost much and you simply put your bag into a locker, select which one on the screen, pay and you'll get a receipt for that locker which you can scan when you come to pick your bag up later. Really easy.
So this is downtown Rotterdam. Finally woken up after my early start this morning. And one of the main things to check out the city is this market behind me, so let's go and take a look.
The Market Hall in Rotterdam is a very cool place. It's part market, part residential building. It's a funky bit of architecture, home to loads of bars, restaurants and stores, selling a range of produce all under one cool roof.
So this is the central market in Rotterdam and it is an amazing place. The mural on the ceiling is fantastic, it's really cool and there's loads of nice places to hang out too, so plenty of bars and restaurants. They sell everything here, kind of loads of Asian food, loads of European food, there's lots of choices and loads of kind of local produce too. One thing I do like about this place is that on the top of a lot of the markets there's like little kind of terraces where you can hang out. So I mean it's 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning now, so it's dead pretty much, but if you're here on the weekend or in the evening I think it'd be a really cool place to hang out. So yeah, but the place has just got loads of things too. It's got a good atmosphere to it, good vibe. I'm liking it. So I'm liking the market, and conveniently adjacent is another site of Rotterdam which is called the Cube Houses, which look pretty nice and pretty cool, so let's go and take a look at them as well. So convenient.
Designed by architect Piet Blom, and I hope I said that right, the cube houses are a group of eye-catching buildings made from cubes at a 45-degree angle. These houses were designed in the late 1970s and have become a famous piece of architecture in the city. There's a museum here too if you want to learn more about them, and even a hostel if you want to stay the night.
So this is the Cubist house, which is pretty cool, or Cubist houses, sorry. Nice and colourful, really unique and different. The thing I've noticed about Rotterdam is it's got loads of kind of cool modern buildings everywhere. Quite an industrial city, but it's really nice with a lot of culture.
I was loving the vibe of Rotterdam, and if you're here for the day on a cruise, it's a perfect destination. In the winter too, similar to Hamburg, there were plenty of cafes and indoor attractions if the weather isn't great.
Just about to leave for Rotterdam now. I like it, really cool place, nice vibe to it. Decent bars and restaurants, things to see, so yeah, if you're in town, Rotterdam, definitely worth a visit. And if you're coming here on a cruise too for a day, this is a perfect place too. You dock pretty much right in the city centre, and it's not far to walk to all the attractions too, so yeah, Rotterdam is good, I like it.
So my cruise was over and it was time to head home, but what are my final thoughts? Well, I would highly recommend a winter cruise in Northern Europe, and thoroughly enjoyed both Hamburg and Rotterdam, and would love to go back to both of them. In terms of cruising in winter, as I said, just go with a bigger ship in case the weather isn't great, and I think you'd be fine. I was really impressed with the MSC Virtuosa. She has lots to do on board, and I really liked the layout and atmosphere. I thought she had a nice decor too, and the crew were really friendly and helpful. There is one issue though with the Virtuosa, however. The cruise I took was out of season, so the ship wasn't full, so it was fine with a good amount of people. Some areas did get a little bit busy, but overall it never felt too crowded. Now, I've spoken to some people who took a cruise on her in peak season, and they found the ship very uncomfortable, as there seemed to be too many passengers on board. I also heard stories from some of the crew whilst I was on board, talking about times when the ship is at full capacity, and then it isn't a very comfortable or nice place to be. Looking at her deck plans, there seems to be a lot of cabins on board, but in comparison, not enough public space for passengers, which would explain it feeling crowded at peak times. The ratio between the two just doesn't seem right. I'd be wary of booking a cruise on her during school holidays or at peak times. That said, she's a very nice ship, and I had an excellent few days away and would book on her and with MSC again, but in the quieter seasons. I was impressed, and for the price I paid for the cruise alone, which was around £279 per person, I thought it was a very good deal and would recommend a cruise with MSC. Cruising out season in winter can also be very cheap compared to peak season. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give me a like and a subscribe too. I really like it when people do that. It really does mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.